Hello and welcome to Stay Humble podcast. Hi, I'm David Palmer, and today we are talking about training and nutrition during lockdown. Okay, and today we have got our very first guest on the show, which I'm really excited about. Today, Matthew Pipes is going to be my guest. Welcome to Stay Humble podcast. How are you feeling today, Matthew?
I'm good, mate. I think it's a first for us both. We've never really done anything quite like this. Be interesting to see how it goes. Have a little bit of fun with it. But yeah, thanks for having me on, mate.
No problem. Firstly, I just want you to just briefly talk about yourself and what you are currently doing in terms of your role and in your job and what your sort of path has been to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. So my life for like the last 4 or 5 years, it kind of just revolved around training and nutrition, mainly nutrition, I guess. So I did my degree in Hull in sports, exercise, and science nutrition. After that, and then alongside that, I was also coaching full time. Then, like as life progressed, I kind of moved away from that coaching role to where I am now, which is a official title is nutritional formulator, I guess, for a supplement manufacturer. So we don't sell supplements; we manufacture the supplements for bigger companies, bigger names. That's where I am right now. Believe it or not, I am classed as a key worker because in this like current state of lockdown, because supplement sales have gone up through the roof so much. But so I'm very, very fortunate in that fact that I'm still able to do my job, still earn like a full salary. Obviously, not many people are that fortunate. So in myself, like I'm doing okay in this situation. Plenty of people have it worse. I'm not complaining. So that's where I am now, mate. I'm still in the journey of kind of finding out what I truly want to do. But yeah, that's where I am now.
That's great. So what I want to do is just get straight into some sort of the questions and ideas that I've kind of bounced off with you on Instagram originally, talking about just the current state in terms of being in a lockdown situation and how our training and nutrition's changed lately. And the first thing I wanted to ask you was about training at home with limited equipment. What are the challenges that you have faced in that situation with, what equipment you can use and the space that you have to train in?
So yeah, so it's very relevant to what a lot of people are going through. I may be different to a lot of those people simply because I have very specific bodybuilding. Like my main passion is bodybuilding, so not many people share that passion. I have very specific goals of what I want to look like, what my body composition needs to be. So what I've had to do probably will differ a lot compared to someone who just wants to train, wants to move, wants to feel better about themselves, wants to look a little bit better naked. But me specifically, as soon as I found out that the gyms were closing, it was a bit of a challenge, like mentally, because it is my kind of it's my favorite part of the day. Well, one of my favorite parts of the day. Going to the gym, relieving stress, kind of getting that aggression out, and knowing that I'm progressing towards that specific goal that I have in mind. Yeah. So when I found out that the gyms were closing, it really did get my brain firing of, do I either like kind of defeat myself? Do I accept the fact that I'm not going to be able to train in the perfect situation, perfect scenarios, or do I just do what I can and then slowly inch forward each and every day to that goal? Yeah. So obviously I've taken the second option. I have very limited equipment, but still enough. So I have a classic York barbell set that you would have been able to get on Argos for like 40 quid. So I'm able to do enough, and kind of given my background in my education, I'm able to think of like kind of intuitive is probably the wrong word, but like just good enough ways to elicit a response I want from my body, which is to gain size, I guess. But again, not many people have that. I see that as a luxury. So other than the equipment, I do it in my garage, and it's not an open garage. I probably have about 5 feet in length and maybe 3 feet in width of space. So I am limited in space, but I'm still making that work. There's still ways. There's always an option to make exercise and training a part of your daily life. It's just putting your mind to it, putting a bit of a thought process into that, and figuring out how it's going to work.
Yeah, I'll admit I've had that sort of same challenges myself. I didn't realise before this how difficult it was going to be with the training setup. At the moment, all I really possess is a 12-kilo kettlebell and a resistant band that I broke the first time I did a session. So I've been a bit limited in terms of what I've been able to do. So it's mostly been body weight training or just general, just keeping top of what I've been doing in terms of strength exercises, probably focusing more on sort of repetitions. So the repetitions have been a lot more higher and more focused on dominant, like probably body parts with my own training. If I'm going to give my input of how I've been able to keep going. My own concerns with myself was being able to maintain sort of my strength and muscle mass during this period of not having that sort of resistance with any weights or stuff like that. I don't know what your take is on that.
So maintaining strength's a funny one, because your absolute strength will go down simply because if you barbell back squat and you develop strength in that movement, you can no longer barbell back squat with a 12 kilogram kettlebell. So your movement proficiency will go down, so that will decrease your strength. But that doesn't mean that you've got like truly weaker or you've lost size. Like, without sounding too boring, the science on maintaining muscle mass is very favorable for times like this. It takes very little stimulus to maintain the tissue that we have in our body. Like very, very little. So like I got that question quite a few times over on Instagram when people saw me training. It was like, I only have this. They'd list their equipment list, and it was very, very like a very short list. And I said, you know what, just do what you can. If it's 10 sets of squats with a 12 kilogram kettlebell, that will always trump not doing those 10 sets. And when we do eventually come out of this, because we will, hopefully, the people who hopefully the people that have kept training in the subpar conditions will be ahead of the people that have just gone, you know what, it's not worth my time. I don't have access to all the machines. I don't have access to the barbells, the dumbbells. It's not good enough for me. I'm too advanced for this type of training. Nobody's too advanced for any kind of training. It will help you so much just to do something, whatever it may be, and you'll maintain your strength so much more, your muscle mass so much more, your mental health so much more. Then once this is all over, once you've gone through this process, you'll be more mentally resilient, and you'll also be in a much better place to kind of catapult yourself into more progress once the gym's reopened.
Yeah. Another question I wanted to follow on with is just a bit about introducing any new training methods. So obviously, I know we live literally across the road from one another, and I've seen your videos online and seen that you've been training in the garage. What sort of new training methods that you've had to reintroduce in that period?
So I've just, again, because of my specific goals, I need to train in a more specific way to achieve those goals. So for me personally, it was kind of maintaining volume levels. So kind of I just count volume as hard sets, and maintaining the kind of relative intensity. So I guess how close a muscle is to failure. So obviously, if I've gone from a bench press of 90 kilograms for sets of 8, I cannot do that with my York 40 quid adjustable dumbbell set. So what I've had to do is, like what you said earlier, introduce a lot higher rep sets and just do more sets overall to try and kind of accommodate for that drop in absolute weight on the bar. So I've increased my volume by roughly like 20% to give a number on it. And I've also introduced like kind of intensity techniques, drop sets, rest pauses, supersets. One thing that I really enjoy is Maya reps, which is just a fancy term for like a very long extended set.
Yeah.
Again, it's just finding those specific ways that, like, with whatever equipment what you have, how do you make that harder or hard enough? So if you just have a band, doing banded Bulgarian split squats to absolute failure, your legs are going to be dead the next day. They're going to be absolutely wrecked. It's not, you might not feel the same, whereas if you was doing a heavy leg press or a heavy squat, but you are still driving a stimulus to that muscle, and that stimulus will maintain that muscle. So yeah, just finding ways to make whatever you have available to you as hard as it needs to be.
That's great. What I want to ask now is more sort of personal. So one of the things I want to ask you is, what's making you accountable each day to train? So what are you using in terms to keep yourself training? Is it a training program? I mean, I've seen obviously like you're posting on Instagram as a way of keeping accountable as well with your training. What other things would you suggest to people maybe to help them be accountable to train during this period?
Yeah. So me personally, there's a few ways I like to stay accountable. A couple that you mentioned. One, putting on Instagram. So I put on a post saying, my diet has restarted. This is what I'm doing. I expect to lose this much by this time. I want to look this way by this time. And now that it's out there to the world, I've told people, all my 3 followers, I now have a kind of mental obligation to not fail in the public eye, even though it's not widespread public eye. In my head, I'm picturing it like that. So it just helps me stay accountable. So that's one way. Second way, kind of very similar, is I tell my closest friends and family what I'm doing. So I have other friends that are also into bodybuilding, and like manipulating body composition, and I've told them what I'm trying to do. And we may or may not have slight competitive values between each other. So if I'm telling this person that I'm trying to achieve this, I want to uphold my kind of promise to that person. Like, yes, I am going to follow through with this, and you're going to be impressed by this. At the end of it, you're going to be like, wow, yeah, he did it. So that's another way, just kind of telling people who have similar goals to you, that are in a similar situation as you, that you are doing this, and then you can both kind of strive together. And then the kind of final way is one that's, again, very specific to me, is I've simply booked a photo shoot for, I think July the 11th is the day that I booked it for. And again, that's just another thing, like, I'm 90 days away from this, or I'm 60 days away from this. So I need to do what I need to do today. So in however many days' time down the road, I haven't failed myself.
Yeah.
So those are my specific ways. The first 2 are probably the most relatable. The third one is kind of very specific to me again, because I did have ambitions or potential ambitions to compete this year on in men's physique. So that's kind of my substitution, because I'll to share a little bit of vulnerability, I guess. Like, a couple of weeks ago, I was kind of doubting my decision to carry on dieting, simply because I didn't have a goal. kind of told people, I've kind of said, oh, I might try start dieting again. I've kind of set up my training where it's possible for me to do that, but I was just kind of on and off.
Yeah.
So I did those 3 things, and then I did that 2 weeks ago, maybe a week ago, and since then my training has been better than it has ever been. My kind of adherence to my diet protocol has been the best it's ever been. So yeah, I guess that would be my main key points there.
That's great. And what I was going to follow on with actually is certainly, I think something that's becoming an issue, I think, for certain people during this period is the motivation side of training at home. And I wanted to ask you, how has your motivation been affected by the training during this lockdown period? I know I can imagine certainly from the bodybuilding sort of side of things for people, that's going to be massive in terms of their motivation, not having that sort of equipment to be able to train in that sort of setting because of it being closed. And obviously there's some elements of people that work in a community aspect, like I play rugby myself, so obviously I've not got that community of people to train around, and that can have a bit of a motivation, a factor in being able to do these sort of, try and stay active during this period.
Yeah, I'd honestly say people who have like normally trained in a team environment got it far worse than a bodybuilder. A bodybuilding is kind of a solo sport, if you call it a sport. Yeah. Whereas if you're training with your rugby mates, your footy mates, and they're the only times that you truly train, and obviously the purpose of that training has been taken away, and it might be taken away for a very long time. I feel like if I was that person, I would find it very, very hard to find that motivation. So bodybuilders probably got this the easiest because most bodybuilders put the frigging hoodie up, put their AirPods in, and then the block out the world because it's their therapy or whatever they say. But if someone came to me saying that they was lacking in motivation, the first thing I'd say is like no one is truly completely unmotivated. There's always a remnant of motivation there because everyone's got goals, everyone's got aspirations, whatever they may be. So motivation is always there. You always have that voice saying, you probably should do this so you achieve this. It's just kind of bridging that gap from here to action. And now that since we've been put into lockdown and everything's changed, like I see people more defending their like kind of status quo, their new status quo more and more. So I mean, I've been taken away from work, I've been taken away from the gym, rugby. So I'm not in the position to do what I want to do. So it's kind of, I need to do this run so I can maintain my body weight. Mm-hmm. But it's kind of, I need to do this run, but I can't because I don't have the motivation because of the lockdown. Or I need to eat this certain amount of food, but I don't want to because I don't feel like it. Like it's that middle way, the but, that kind of helps that person defend where they are.
Yeah.
And like maintains where they want to be. It's kind of like it's been ambivalent to change. They've been pulled into the different directions. And they have the what they want to do, but the other reasons that are pulling them the other way, that's stopping them from making that action. And when people have spoke to me about that, I've basically just said to them, you need to kind of, it sounds very like wooey and like hippie, but it does have a solid research back in this process. And it's like to go from there, you need to start like initiating change talk, either if you have a coach or by yourself. And taking that, I need to, but I can't. Taking that to I could, so I will. I need to, so I will. And once you kind of develop that, just subtle change in language, like you can take that into actually taking steps. So if someone's completely unmotivated to like move or train or do anything during lockdown, I would say a potential kind of change talk could be, I will do 10 bodyweight squats, 10 press ups, and 10 sit ups after every Netflix episode I watch. It's such a subtle change going from I need to, but I won't, I have to, but I can't, to I could, I will, I may. Like, and once you take those small little steps, you commit to those steps, and you kind of go through that process and grain those small steps. You've kind of gone through a nice full cycle of behavior change. So you've just changed your behavior by simply changing your language to yourself. So then once you kind of go through that process, so you're being ambivalent, you've changed the way you're speaking to yourself, you've taken some small steps, you've committed to that, changed your behavior. So you've done that for like a morning walk, or eating more veg, whatever it may be. Once you've done that a few times, you'll be in a lot better place in health and motivation. And then you can slowly apply that to bigger things. So home workout, like big home workouts, 3 times a week, going out for a bike ride for however many kilometers a couple of times a week. So that's kind of my step by step that I go through with myself. I have that internal dialogue with myself and with clients that I've had in the past. It's not a simple answer, because when people say, how do you find the motivation? I think a lot of the time they're wanting, oh, I do this and then my motivation's flipped on its head and the world's my oyster. And motivation isn't like that. It needs to be recognized and nurtured and developed for you to then take action on that motivation.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. Certainly what you mentioned in terms of prompts. I've read myself Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg, who's a psychologist from Stanford, and his 3 points in terms of behavior change are motivation, attention, and action and prompt. Like you said there, a prompt such as just saying, right, I'm going to do 10 press ups after I've watched this Netflix episode is just a subtle prompt that you can just from there, the motivation and the behavior starts to change, where it goes from not just 10 press ups, you might be able to do 20 press ups further down the line. And it's that sort of thing that if people could learn to sort of use them 3 elements together to change your behavior, then you're going to see a difference in terms of your motivation towards exercise. I think people think they need to do maybe a 30-minute HIIT workout with Joe Wicks, for instance, when really you don't need to do that at all. You might just want to do 5 minutes of exercise and break that cycle down in terms of being able to increase your sort of exercise and activity levels, really.
Yeah, and those are like fantastic points, and building on that is also just recognizing what you want to do on that specific day. So if one day I truly did not want to go and make it work in my gym with my limited equipment and force the issue, I would likely just do whatever I fancied on that day, whether it would be going for a run or doing some HIIT workout, or like whatever it may be. And then I've maintained that habit, but then at the end of it, I've also not developed negative feelings towards my situation of having to train in the garage. I at the end of it, I feel happy, I feel hopeful, I feel grateful for like the opportunity to even do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just one little thing that I thought I'd add.
Right, I wanted to just go into a different path, something that you're more looking towards with your future career, and certainly what you do now, which is going towards sort of your nutrition background. And one of the things I certainly wanted to start by is saying about how do you stick to a healthy nutrition diet whilst at home, particularly with the layers of junk food and sort of your snack foods that are hanging around for people during this sort of period where I think a lot of people motivations, they're getting the calls to eat that sort of snack food rather than actually sticking to what they know is best, which is, your sort of 3 meals a day and trying to stick to as much routine as possible, like from what they would have done in a work scenario.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main issues of being in lockdown. You're kind of entire environment around food has changed. Your routine has changed, like I've said before. So I think it's kind of related to what I said about the change talk beforehand. You can either frame it in a way of, I've been thrust into this scenario and I am now helpless. Like, there's dairy milk, Galaxy, whatever in my snack cupboard, and I'm never going to be able to get away from that. Or you can use this time as an opportunity to kind of develop just health seeking behaviors. It doesn't have to be dieting. It doesn't have to be, I don't know, achieving a certain look or weight goal or whatever like people want to do. It could just be simple things such as committing to eating veg 3 times a day.
Yeah.
Even if you're still eating your Galaxy for breakfast, whatever, like people are doing that. Once you've developed that kind of, I'm going to eat veg 3 times today, and you consistently do that, no one is going to argue that you are not now healthier for doing that. It's kind of along this line of health at every size, where new kind of movement where people think you can be completely healthy whilst being overweight or over fat. But it's not that. It's saying you can make health conscious choices without trying to manipulate your body weight and the way you look. So if say right now you are in an environment where maybe you don't live alone, your people that you live with just do not have a health conscious mind. They're ordering takeaways, pizzas, they're eating ice cream. They don't know what color broccoli is. Like, you are going to find it much, much harder to adhere to a diet. Like, I'm going to track my calories and achieve this weight goal. Because you're going to be surrounded by all those food cues and the behaviors of those different people, that it's just, you'd probably be far too stressed out to see progress.
Yeah.
By trying to resist those things. And so the stress is kind of biting you in the ass. You're stressed out about avoiding those things, but you're becoming so stressed out that you don't make any progress, simply because you cave in every weekend and you smash 2 takeaways in 2 days or something. So if you are in that situation, you've got a few options. Obviously, there's no one right answer. I would say just pick a few health-seeking behaviours that you know that you can commit to, no matter what happens during the day. Whether it's eating veg 3 to 5 times a day, eating fruit a couple times a day, getting your fibre in, eating enough protein, eating 3 bolus doses of protein, like whatever it may be, and focus on that. You could also go down the route of, if you want to truly like develop kind of long-term like nutritional habits, which I think right now is a great time to do that.
Definitely.
I recently did a post on Instagram about this. It's kind of developing a nutritional structure for your days. So the way I've done this, and the way that I propose everyone to kind of try this, is pick your meal timing structure. So right now for me, it's I eat at 9, I eat at 12, 3, 6, and then at 9. I don't eat outside of those meal times. And once you've got your meal timing structure, whether that's 5 times a day, eating 5 times a day, intermittent fasting, whatever it may be, whatever suits you, develop then a set kind of, say, 3 to 5 meals for each one of those timings. So you have a few breakfasts, a few lunchy meals, a few dinner meals, and so on. And once you've done that, your days become autonomous regarding food. So right now, I think everyone's days is kind of revolves around food because we're all bored.
Yeah.
There's nothing much to do. We're all sat on Netflix, and what do you do when you're on Netflix? You eat. So it's a boredom thing right now, and I think if you can kind of develop those meal timing structures, not will that only help you during lockdown, it'll also help you throughout your entire life. Because then there's so many like nuance to this of what the like benefits could be. Like your hunger will rise and fall with those times after you do it consistently, so you won't feel the need to snack in between meals. If you develop well-rounded meals, so like calorie controlled, full of fiber, full of veg meals, you probably will be in a good stance of like maintaining or even losing your body weight, obviously depending on the calorie content. So there's like the benefits kind of like are endless to this type of thing, especially since most coaches nowadays, most online coaches, only promote tracking calories. This is a way, a time, and in life that people could learn how not to track calories by developing these specific habits. And I was going to do that until I started dieting again. So I am currently tracking my calories. Yeah. But after I put out that post, it did get some decent feedback. It wasn't my original idea. It's not a brand new method of eating. It's very well documented that eating in this kind of way does help people lead a less stressful life regarding food. Like they're not snack focused, not food focused in general, and they can just develop healthier habits with their eating. So yeah, very long-winded answer, but
no, you've answered some of the parts that I was even going to ask you. I definitely agree in terms of the behaviours, in terms of people's reaction towards food. Like you say, with snacking, is it a behaviour in terms of it's a way of them making them feel good? You know, is usually the likelihood of people snacking, you know, with sort of snack foods and stuff like that, and that sort of relationship that needs to be broken down. And I definitely agree in terms of, I think it's a perfect opportunity to meal prep, and it kind of frustrates me to think that people are reliant on takeaways and reliant on stuff. I understand there's been some struggles in terms of buying certain foods during lockdown. I mean, it wasn't ideal at first when everyone decided to buy the entire store in the first few weeks of it, but obviously that's now changed with these restrictions that are put in place. But I just feel like it's an opportunity for people, particularly families. It's an opportunity now to start like cooking meals together and actually preparing like nutritional foods. And again, I'm going to refer to the same book that I've talked about already, like Tiny Habits. He mentions in that book in terms of the fridge, about how it's like a magic fridge and how he prepares like the foods that he can just prepare it all in advance. And then you can just grab the foods that you want to make them, you know, to make these sort of meals quicker, and that's how you're able to create healthier meals and stuff like that. And I think, I don't know what your feelings are in terms of, you know, that sort of, you know, families or people able to cook these foods with the time that they've got at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely a time where people just genuinely have more time. I get the fact that for many people, it's still a very stressful time, especially if they've lost jobs and the income has decreased dramatically. Maybe the fact that they have 3 kids now at home 24/7 is stressing them out completely. So they don't want to do they don't want to cook big meals. They don't want to spend time doing these things. But like you say, if it was framed differently, and if people thought about this time as an opportunity to achieve these things, it could be done. So it could be a time to kind of involve the children in cooking and developing meals that the whole family likes, that are healthy and well calorie balanced and all these things. But I see like both sides of it. It's hard to say like stop doing what you're doing. Like you should never have a takeaway. Like it's not the time for takeaways simply because you now have the time to cook. Like me personally, just going off my thing. Like I'm still working full time. I don't live alone, so my food environment is not under my control completely. So I am surrounded by those food cues of kind of quote unquote junk food. And the way that I've had to kind of develop a system, I guess, in how to deal with that is I've bought those, how you mentioned, like those easy to prepare, kind of, I guess it could be called ready meals, but you can get some very healthy ready meals. And so I've ordered them off a website, Muscle Food, and I can literally just go into my cupboard, grab that, put it in a microwave, and I've got like a very good source of protein. I've got some veg in the fridge, and I've spent like 3 minutes creating a meal, and I've got all it is veg and meat and a little bit of rice, and that's it. Just takes a little bit of forethinking of how am I going to do this, and I think that's where the step that people miss. They just kind of let it happen to them, and then once they let the day happen to them, and then once the day comes to a close and they're feeling a bit stressed, the kids might be getting on the nerves, or work, if they're still working, was very stressful. So that's when the Just Eat app comes, and they just, I'll just order that and keep everyone quiet, keep the house happy. Then I'm gonna go relax. It's kind of, it's all interlinked, and to build those habits, it does take effort. Like, I haven't read that book, but I'm sure you mentioned the fact that building habits isn't easy. It's not overnight. It takes practice. It takes commitment, and it takes repetition. So there's no right answer. It's kind of just, what are you willing to do? What are you ready to do?
Yeah, I agree. Like I say, I definitely think it's a case of, I think just being able to sort of think about what you know in advance before going to shops or anything like that, where you've got that opportunity, like what am I going to have for these set days potentially, and planning it out will help in terms of when you go to the shop to buy these things and prepare them things. So was there any issues that you found? I'm going to just quickly ask you, was there any issues you found during that period at the beginning of lockdown in terms of trying to get your nutrition, you know, when there was periods where you were unable to maybe buy certain foods or stuff at the beginning, or even during now at the moment? Is there anything that's been difficult to sort of get hold of?
I think everyone went through a period of time where buying just the basic food options was a real struggle, which is why I went to like kind of niche online markets to get my personal stuff. But it was mental going into shops, trying to do a shop for my girlfriend's neighbour, who's very elderly, can't leave the house, and all she wanted was it was like sardines and tomato sauce or something. And we went to 6 or 7 shops, not finding them, and that's too forethinking. That's thinking the world's going to end now, so I need to go buy all this food. And then within a few weeks, as everyone predicted, the food supply caught up and the shelves are restocked, and people stopped being idiots. But now all those people have got cupboards full of food that they're probably going to overconsume because it's there, and they're probably going to be unhealthy at the end of this, potentially. So yeah, it was a very frustrating thing, and it affected me kind of mentally. It kind of made me not want to be involved in kind of like social media, because I was seeing it all over social media, and it was just negatively affecting my headspace. And it's just remarkable. Like, it sounds so bad to say, but it's remarkable how stupid a lot of people can be. And if people hear that a lot, if people hear me say that, they'll probably call me arrogant or whatever it may be. But it's true. Like, if we didn't do all those things and go to all the supermarkets and congregate outside of supermarkets and all the other things that people were doing that they shouldn't have been doing, we might not be one of the leading deaths for this virus.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
it's very unfortunate. It's a horrendous situation, and I think even now, I think people are starting to relax a little bit. Even now, deaths. I think, am I wrong in saying that our deaths have now just topped Italy and Spain or something?
That's we're the worst country in Europe, I believe, for deaths now. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I've heard on the news that they're going to start relaxing things. I've seen when I go for a walk every morning. There's more workmen on the road. There's more work trucks on the road. There's just more people going around doing their business. So I think as a whole, the country didn't deal with it very well, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned, and hopefully we will learn them, and hopefully that will be the positive that comes out of this situation. Yeah, like could go on, but yeah, that's probably what I'm saying.
I agree with you in terms of it was just an absolute shock at first. Obviously, we've seen the reaction of the public, and I'm glad that supermarkets put the measure in when they did. But I do think it's something that they should have done sooner, unfortunately. And like you said, the relaxation on these sort of methods are not looking too hopeful. Certainly, from Monday, it looks likely that they're going to introduce an basically everyone can go back out and exercise as normal. From Monday's the likely decision that's going to be made. My opinion on that, I don't think that should be changed. But that's just my opinion. But we'll see what happens with that. Lastly, I just wanted to quickly ask as well with your nutrition, especially when you're saying that you're sticking to a diet. Again, it's sort of a bit of a similar question earlier, but what's your sort of motivations to being able to stick to that diet, with what with this sort of period?
Yeah, so I am. So I've been tracking my training and my nutrition on and off since I was around 17, 18. And I've been very, very involved in the industry as a whole, probably from around then. Mm-hmm. So I kind of have, I'd say, an advantage over most. This is something I truly love. It's my passion. I love doing what I do to my own body, if that doesn't sound too wrong. And I also help people. I also enjoy helping people achieve their like kind of goal, physique or body composition, whatever. Like, so I love this stuff.
Yeah.
So that's where my motivation. It's not even motivation. You don't need motivation to do your passion. It's simply passion is raw, and it's something that just gets me up every morning at 6:45, go for my walk, come here and have my breakfast at my set meal schedules. And people look at that and I like to think that's very neurotic and over the top. But that's just what I need to do. That's what I need to do to achieve my personal goal. That's not what everyone else needs to do. So yeah, like in this lockdown, there's going to be a few people, or two types of people, I guess. There's going to be the ones that just kind of drop the ball and let I'll say I'll pick up this goal, chase this goal later down the line, and then kind of completely forget about it. There's going to be like the mid-road people that kind of are on and off. And I think that's probably where most people will be. They'll do it for a few days, come off, do it for a few days, come off. And I think, yeah, like I said, that's probably where most people are. And then you've got the people like, apologies. You've got people like me who have kind of like that, like I say, that passion that just want to do this thing all of their time. If I could, I'd make a job out of just training, eating, and doing everything along those lines. So yeah, it's for me, it's not motivation, it's passion that drives me. And when you look on Instagram and see all the bodybuilders and all that kind of stuff, they're in the same situation. They're doing what they have to do, whatever they can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, just 1 second. Sorry about that, mate.
Don't worry about it. No problem.
It's work. But yeah. That's probably where I stand there. Yeah.
That's great. Right. Well, I'm going to just jump onto the last topic already. It's basically just a case of after lockdown, how's training and nutrition going to change after this?
Bloody hell. God, I think in a few ways. Hopefully, like as a scope, as a industry, I hope it gets more regulated.
Yeah.
Like especially online coaching. So we've seen a lot of dubious claims around what people are saying on Instagram, on Facebook, and I hope to God that like now that every kind of coach and PT had to do online coaching, they had to adhere to online coaching. There's no other way for them to do their job. I hope like governing bodies kind of see it more as an actual thing. Online coaching, even though it's been around for probably over a decade now, it's still very under the radar in my eyes to governing bodies. And hopefully now that they've seen the potential negatives of these industry being ungoverned, that they'll start putting measures in place. Hopefully they'll raise the bar of what you need to achieve in order to be a coach. Like you have to attend specific courses, share a specific level of skill and knowledge and education. That would be amazing. That's what I truly want to see, because that's just going to raise the bar. It's going to let the coaches that don't really care about the industry, they'll fall to the wayside, and the people who need the help will get to the right people, the people who do care, and the people who are putting the time and effort and it's like their passion, so they want to take care of the best interest of that client. So that as a whole, that's what I hope. And then just kind of like nutritionally and training, I don't think much will change. I think training wise, people might realize that they don't need to be so dogmatic about their approach. I've certainly seen that in myself. I was very kind of dogmatic that this is my program, this is how I program my training. But obviously now that I've had to throw it out the window, it's just kind of like taking the blinkers off again and open my mind again. Like, yes, there are other ways to achieve my goal. I think that's going to hopefully better the skill of coaches if they know how to coach in different scenarios, using different methods and adapt and learn how to adapt their coaching better. Hopefully that will come through. Nutritionally, mate, like I don't see a way in which it will change. Maybe people will become more aware of the fact how their food environment affects them. If they're constantly at home, maybe they'll buy less crap, if quote unquote crap, if they know what effect it's going to have on them. Now that they've gone through a period of time where it's that effect is even higher and enhanced. But yeah, I think the kind of hopes, and that's kind of my hopes, and that's my like dreams of it. Whether that will come true, I guess we'll just wait and see, man.
Yeah, like I've already discussed with you off camera before this. I mean, I mentioned regarding that the gyms are now likely not going to be open in June like there was planned. It looks like it could be in October or November now before the gyms are going to be open. And again, I was going to ask you a few questions regarding this, and I think one of the first things I was going to ask you is there going to be an expectation of gym owners that the clients or people that use the gym, are they going to be expected to clean the equipment each time they use this equipment? And another element I wanted to say as well is there going to be a limitation in terms of how many people can be in at the gym at the same time with social distancing? Is that going to be a factor as well?
Yeah, it's definitely hard to say. I think it will be a phased approach. I don't think they'll just open the gym. I think if this stretches not only to gyms, I think it'll be most public places where it will still be a specific amount of people, depending on how large whatever the building is. And I understand where that's coming from, but if the virus is still a threat, I still I don't know. I'm not an epidemiologist. I'm not anything like this, but I still don't really see the scope of how that would work, and especially if around that time you get into the normal, typical flu season. So if that's going around along with this new virus, it could just compound that effect, and then we get another surge in cases. It's so tough, and I know specific gyms, like personal, like private gyms. Like I feel like they could probably open because then they're a lot more in control of their environment, especially if it's a small studio type thing or a small warehouse.
Yeah.
Very in control of their environment. They control who comes through the door. They control how many come through the door. Whereas bigger chains, like Saks for Less, etc. I feel like that'll be a lot harder to kind of put policies in place that will be adhered to. Because even from my personal experience, I go to a very well-known gym in Hull, and it was like the week before we got put into week before the gyms got closed. People weren't adhering to the kind of guidelines around Corona. People weren't washing their hands. People weren't wiping down the equipment, and these were all guidelines that were already in place before the gyms got closed, and people didn't care. People were just sweating everywhere, coughing, going to the toilet, walking straight back out onto the gym floor without washing their hands. And I don't think that will change because people just, that's just people's nature. There's even research showing how very, very few people actually wash their hands. And the people that do wash their hands don't wash them for long enough. So introducing measures like going to the gym, say 20 people in however big a warehouse gym, like the risk is still there for contamination and for that virus to spread. So I don't know the answer. When I look at the data, I'm not smart enough to decipher it. So I follow specific people that I trust that are in this area, and I just kind of try and take on board what they're saying. And I think people that are saying, like, the people are making lists of what they're going to do on the first day that lockdown is open. They're going to go to this restaurant for their breakfast, go train at this gym, go to this restaurant for the dinner, and I think that's where we're going to fail. I think because people are just going to think that the reins have been taken off, life is back to normal, when it's not. People are still dying from this, even though on Monday we're rumored to have the restrictions kind of loosened. Hundreds of people are still dying a day, and I think people have lost that in their mind, and the seriousness of the situation has just kind of dissipated on a lot of people. So yeah, it's so hard to say. It could go either way. But selfishly, because when I heard that news, it did kind of bog me down, and I had a couple of minutes of like, oh, I don't know how long I can kind of take this. But then you kind of, after that little hissy fit, you kind of put things into perspective, and you realize how fortunate you are. You do have your health. You are in control of what your actions are. There's always an option to better that your scenario. So I quickly got myself out of that funk. And if need be, and if gyms aren't going to open for 6 months, I'll happily invest in some more equipment. I think obviously that's depending on the person. People who are just trained to feel good about themselves may not want to do that, but they still have an option of doing. I think there's so many like online boot camps now. There's so many online interactive high intensity workouts, or there's so many options out there that I don't feel like there's enough of a reason to kind of just say, fuck it, I'm not going to do anything. I think people who do take action and maintain their activity level, mental health, nutritional habits, that 6 months down the line, they're going to be leagues ahead in general health, mental health, productivity, work output. Their careers will be further ahead than the other people who just kind of mug it off and don't do anything. Yeah, that's my very personal opinion.
No, it's really, really insightful. I certainly agree with what you've said there. I'd like to talk about this a little bit, and I mean, I feel like this has been one positive of the lockdown is actually seeing people going out and actually doing some sort of exercise with they're doing their sort of one bit of exercise of the day. May it be walking, may it be running, may it be cycling. I mean, I've got a few stats to throw at you for interest for you regarding sort of fitness trackers and biking. So, for instance, in terms of search engines for bikes, people have an interest in getting to bikes. There's been a surge of 525% in people looking into, getting a bike. And the use of Strava has gone up by 354%, from this lockdown period. And that is in the top 3 apps in Apple Store. Obviously it's created that sort of where people are actually trying to take a bit of interest in their sort of health and using that opportunity to get out there. Do you see after this lockdown period people being able to carry this on, or we're just going to go back to what we was like pre-lockdown?
It's difficult to say because again, when post lockdown comes, it's another change in environment, it's another change in scenarios, routines, etc. So if I were to say I have a client who had just bought a bike and or is maybe now running on Strava and trying to develop this new habit, I'd potentially already have a plan in place to maintain that habit when everything kind of goes back to normal. So how are you going to maintain your running output when you're back at work, working 9 to 5, commuting maybe, and having that kind of process in place before it happens, rather than trying to be reactive. Like, I was biking all this time throughout lockdown, but now I'm at work and I don't know how to fix it. I mean, I don't know how to fit it in. So just kind of go back to that status quo before lockdown. So I think being proactive, planning ahead will help that. And I think that's what, again, the foresight, the pre-planning, the just putting some further thought in how to put that new habit into a new environment is where most people fall down, and that's where having a coach is just vital in my eyes. Like, my process into lockdown would have been a lot smoother if I had a coach, and the process of me coming out of lockdown will be a lot smoother if I had a coach. Just simply because they can look at your situation in such an objective manner and take your subjective reasonings and like your like negative perceptions of that situation away. They can look at it completely objective, like, oh, you're now working 9 to 5. Excuse me, you biked 5K every 2 days. Well, we can split that down into 2.5K every day before or after work. Just it's something like that. Like, planning ahead will always put you ahead. So I like that. Those stats where like music to my ears. I love that. I know a lot of people that are on Strava, and I feel like community, because Strava is a very community driven app. It's like you can see who's done what on what course, and I feel like that's going to be more and more of a strong position to be in when it comes to exercising. It's being a part of a community, because being solo, kind of struggling solo, it gets old very quick. And it's very easy to, if you're on your own, kind of relating very back to one of the first questions. If you're the only person chasing that goal, the only person that knows about that goal, it's very easy to quit because you're the only one that's going to let you quit. So yeah, hopefully people plan ahead and keep up those better habits, because they'll lead much better lives for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love to see, like, obviously, like you said, that's particular with fitness tracking apps, and see like the usage of them to see how much of a change, from the sort of period of March and April before previous periods in, say, January and February, just to see the sort of patterns of change and activity levels. Would be really interested insight to find that out, but I don't have them resources, unfortunately. But like I say, do you feel people are now going to jump maybe into sort of more community-based groups post-lockdown as well? So sort of, what type of, are they going to jump into sort of the diet groups again, or are they just going to join into more exercise groups, you think, from this? Or do you think it's going to create a bit of sense? Like some people might, like you say, if they started to take up running, they might think, oh, I might want to join a running club like Eastall down the road or something like that, where they can be part of a community as well now.
Hopefully, I think that's a separating factor for success is surrounding yourself with other people that are trying to strive for that same goal. And hopefully these apps are kind of like an insight to that. I feel like being in a in-person community is so much more deeper impacting. So like you said, there's a running club down the road, like East Hull Harriers. Every time I see them out, they're all laughing, they're joking, they're working hard, but they're loving it because they're with their friends. They're all sharing the same pain, I guess. So hopefully that will be promoted more, and people who are technical wizards will catch on with that and build great apps and market it well. And people who like maybe on like the more personal scale will see how beneficial that was, and maybe in their coaching service they build more community into that. Maybe they'll build an app where they can all speak together. They do group training, they do group hangouts, whatever it may be. And it cannot be understated how important community is. If someone feels welcome in an environment, they're going to want to be there. If someone feels like they're getting something out of that environment and they're being pushed on, and they people to rely on, people to fall back on, I feel like it just covers more. It covers the kind of overall like potential negatives, I guess, of trying to chase a goal. Like say if you're lacking the motivation to go do a run in the morning, but you agree to meet 10 of your running mates, again, this is post lockdown, then you're more inclined to do that because you don't want to be the one guy that doesn't turn up.
Yeah, definitely. That's really all of my questions so far. I can't even believe that we've literally talked for an hour so far already. I just wanted to ask, I've really enjoyed your insight today talking about obviously lockdown and training and nutrition. I just wanted to sort of give you sort of a bit of a platform now in terms of where can people, reach you in terms of content, or how to reach out to you if you wanted to give us that platform, really.
Yeah, so as of right now, I'm not overly active on social media because I'm just doing like a lot of personal growth, I guess. But yeah, Instagram's the main place I am. I don't really do Facebook, don't have a Twitter account. Yeah, so I think my Instagram is Coach Matty _TS for Team Strive. Yeah, like I say, I'm kind of moving away from social media a little bit just because I want to focus on myself. I have different personal goals now. But yeah, that's the best way.
That's great. I've really, honestly, this has been great for me to have you as my first interview and, be able to talk about these things. We both have interest, both have real interest into sort of health and nutrition. And it's been something that I've certainly felt about talking, and I've really enjoyed your input and certainly think that this is going to help other people, definitely.
Hopefully. Thank you for having me on. It's been good.
No problem. Right. Well, everyone else, I would like to thank you for listening today. I'm going to want you to be able to share this with anyone else, which is you can share that either through Instagram on Stay Humble with 3 underscores, I think it is. But what I want to do is say thank you again for listening. Stay safe, stay humble.